All right, let's get started. Today we are going to talk about Python primer. Actually, we are continuing on where we left from last class. First, I'm going to talk about course logistics a little bit, and then I'm going to discuss some Python primer. All right, first, course logistics. Regarding Python basics, some students gave me the feedback that they are learning Python for the first time. And even some other students told me that it is their first time really learning programming. And there are very good resources on the web. The first one is very famous one on Samsung Software Expert Academy. When you go there, there is some good course for you. So you click here, learn, and then course here. And this programming beginner course is about learning Python basics here and here. So there are some explanations in Korean, and there are some practice problems, exercises. So you can utilize this resource. And if you are not familiar with Korean, there is another good resource on the web. It is HackerRank. This one is also a very famous website for learning computer programming. You don't have to look at all these skills. However, you just need to look at the basic one. And there are some problem exercises you can solve. So you can here type your answers, and you can solve these problems to improve your skills regarding Python. All right. So if you are not familiar with Python, then you can have a look at these two resources. You don't have to do all these two things. You can choose just either of them, just one of them, okay? And regarding in-class exercises, I'm going to give you quite a lot of in-class exercises. Please share your answers to me through chatting when we're doing online lectures. And thank you for sharing your answers in advance. Please share your answers. And sometimes you might think that your answers might be different from what other students shared. Even that is the case, please share your answers. If I just see the right answers, then I would think that, oh, everyone is getting the concept correctly. And I would skip detailed explanations. And feel free to ask questions. You can ask in Korean, or if you don't want to speak up, then you can just send me some messages, private messages through chatting, and your questions are invaluable. And regarding TA recitations, it will start from next week, and we will schedule the recitations at the end of today's class. I'll do another survey. And there are two options, two time slots. Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. or Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll run just one of them. And due to time constraints, we could offer only two options. Sorry for that. TAs are also students and they have their classes and schedule. And TA recitations are going to be online, and you can join the recitations through the same Zoom link as the class Zoom. And homework 1 is out today, and it is due next Thursday before lecture starts. So March 9th, 1 p.m. is due. Okay, regarding course logistics, are there any questions? All right, cool. And let's talk about Python. Can you guys read text here? Is it readable?
Yes.
All right. So last time we talked about variables, and we'll continue on talking about variables. And I told you that in Python, a variable can store literally anything. So you can assign some values to variables like this. You can use this equal sign, equal symbol, and you can change the value of variables using other variables like this. So here, B is going to be A plus B, and A is going to be B. And when we print out A and B, the result is going to be 2 and 3. So A became 2 and B became A plus B, 3. And there are some predefined variables or names or functions. So some of them are like, you can call this expression or variables or names, whatever you want to call them. And as you can imagine, this min function or min name, the name min, finds out the minimum among the past parameters, and max, as you can infer from the name, returns the maximum value among the past parameters, given parameters. So the maximum value among 1 to 3 is 3, so 3 is printed out, and the minimum value among 1 to 3 is 1. You can add like other numbers like this. It will still work, right? And another fun thing you can do with Python variables or names is you guys might remember the name print, right? It printed out some numbers or text. And if we assign this print name to this PPP variable, then PPP now becomes print. So it will do the same thing as what print does, all right? And here I would like to give you one problem to think about. So can you guys guess what the result of executing this code block? Think about the results and send me the answer through chat. You can send public message or private message. I'll give you 1 minute. 1 minute. Yeah. All right, thank you for sharing your answers. All right, cool. Yeah, let's check the answer together. When we run this program, this code block, the result is 3. Why is it so? I guess one of you came up with the right answer. Can you explain? Can anyone explain why the result is 3? So what is H here?
The H is max function.
All right, let's check this together. Here, H became mean. Can you guess why? Because here, G was mean, and the name Max became mean. And even though we assigned the name Max here to H, it is connected to this one. So H here now became mean. All right. So even though you need to be very careful about assigning names, because the effect will not just stop here. All right. H is connected to Max. And when you change Max in other places, then H will also change. All right. So think about it on your own after class. You can run these like this and check your answers. All right. Okay, that was about names. Names can change after these lines, after these definition lines. You need to be very careful about this. And I would like to talk about strings a little more. More specifically, I would like to talk about string formatting. String formatting becomes very important when you actually implement something or debugging your programs. And there are many ways to format your strings. You might have learned about this when you're learning C++ or C or Java. Let's say the temperature is 202 and the measure is Fahrenheit. And what you can do is water boils. What we did last time was concatenating these two strings using this plus sign, right? And we converted this number into string like this. However, this is somewhat cumbersome. We don't like this, right? So rather than doing this, we can format strings more efficiently like this. Water boils at %D, degrees, %S, and here you use % here, and temp and measure like this. And what it will print out is water boils at 202 degrees Fahrenheit. So % string means string will come here. And this string is measure. And %D means integer will come here. And the integer is indicated by these % parentheses. All right. And another way of formatting this is using these symbols, right? And you can use dot format like this. And you pass the specific strings or numbers like this. It prints out basically the same thing. Or you can format your string using this F symbol. So they basically do the same thing. So there are 3 ways of formatting your strings. So when you're combining numbers, strings together, you don't have to use concatenation any longer, but you can use this string formatting method. This one is called percent formatting. And this way of string formatting is called just naive string formatting. And this way of formatting string is called F-string formatting. These 3 methods are all okay. You can choose any of them. It doesn't really matter. So some people prefer F-string, whereas some other people prefer string formatting. So you can choose any of these. And if you want to print out some like floating points, you can use %F like this. You can pass like this. All right. So %D for integers, %S for strings, and %F for floating numbers. And there are many other things you can do for string formatting. Let's say anyway, that was a good question. For % formatting, you can use something like this. This one doesn't look different. So what you can do is basically left align or right align some text. But this one doesn't look straightforward. I'll give you some examples of floating numbers. So this is approximation of pi. You can just print %F and %number like this, or you can use this parenthesis like this, format number. So these are 3 ways of representing the same numbers like this. However, they show different number of numbers. And you can control how many numbers you want to show after this dot. That is by indicating numbers like this. And now this indicates that show only 3 numbers after this dot. All right. And you can do the same thing here. So they will show 3 numbers after dot. All right. So you can format numbers in this way. And I'll leave the link of some other formatting methods, and you can have a look at those reference. All right. Any questions up to this point? Okay, let's move on. And from now on, I'm going to talk about lists. Python provides some default data structures. In case of other languages like C++ or Java, you need to implement some data structures, basic data structures by yourself, or you need to import some libraries. However, in Python, you can define lists without importing any other modules or libraries. You can just use lists. And lists stores a sequence of items. So defining a list is very easy. You just use bracket like this, and you just indicate what items are in this list, okay? Then you can define list like this, and let's print out the type of this list. It is called class list, right? And when you want to access some items inside this list, you do some indexing. I'll show you what indexing is. It is very simple. This item is the 0th item. So when you count some items inside a list, you start from 0 rather than 1. And this item is 0th item, first item, and it becomes second item. So when you print out the 0th item, you use another bracket like this, and it will return the very first item. And you can access to the first item like this. And when you try to access index longer than the length of the list, it will say it is an index error. List index out of range. So you need to be careful about indexing. Okay. And another cool thing about Python list is you can access these items from the back. And if you want to do that, you use minus index. So let's say we have some other numbers like this. And -1 indicates the last item. And -2 means the second last item. All right. So rather than using some random indices, you can use these minus indices to access the items inside a list from the back. All right. And also, there is a default function or method provided by Python, which tells you the length of this list. So it says the length of this list is 6 because we have 6 items. Okay. And if you want to change the items inside this list, you indicate the index or the position you want to change the item like this. And the third item will be changed to bar. All right. And if you want to add some other numbers or something else to the end of this list, you can call this append method or function. Then something will be added at the end of this list, okay? And another cool feature about Python is you can mix data types like this. You can put string and numbers together inside a list, which are not permitted in other languages. So here, the takeaway is you can access items from the back using minus indices, and you can change or alter the item inside a list using this index and assign operation. and you can also append new items. And there are also other ways you can modify the list. You can use pop function. After you call pop, the list will change by eliminating the last item. So here, this pop operation eliminates the last item. And another thing you can do with this pop option is by passing the index of the item you want to remove. So here, 2 is removed, all right? Okay, so this was list. And you can make list with this list name. And in Python, if you want to create some numbers, you can call another function range. It will create numbers from 0 to 9. It will print out, let's print out what's inside this nums. So it's from 0 to 9, it creates 10 numbers. And because we count items from 0 rather than 1, it creates numbers from 0 to 9, okay? And sometimes you might want to access to multiple items rather than just one item. In those cases, what you can do is by indicating multiple indices like this. So this number will return 2, 3, 4. So this is the starting index, the second index, and it does not contain the fifth index. However, it counts 2, 3, 4, all right? And another thing you can do is just not indicating the last index. Then what it does is printing out from second index to the last, all right? And another thing you can do is 5, 2, minus 2. So you can mix positive and negative indices like this, all right? And when you access to multiple index items inside a list, you can alter multiple items at once, like this. So items at second index and the third index is now 8 and 9 by using this expression. All right. So this was lists. And I would like to give you one exercise question. Can you guys guess the results of executing this code block? Think about it and please send your answers to me. I'll give you 20 more seconds. All right, thank you for sharing your answers. Let's check the answer together. When we run this part, the first one returns just one single item. And the second last item, because this one is -2. So the second last time is the last item is 5. The second last item is 4. So the answer is 4. And the second print expression says that return items from the fourth last item to the last. All right, what is the fourth last item? 1, 2, 3, 4. It is 2. And I told you that this item is not included, so it counts up to 4 right before the last item. So this one returns 2, 3, 4. All right. And this expression alters items from 2 to 4, 2, 3, 4, 20, 30, 40. However, this one does not contain like 3 items. It contains only 2 items. However, it does its job anyway. It does not incur error. That is some weird Python operation. So after so 20, 30, 40 is inserted at this position, right? So this is somewhat weird. However, Python tries not to incur error in this case. Okay. So that was the result of executing this part. All right, let's move on. So you can play with Python lists, and you need to try to understand the functionality of Python lists. Another example is like, let's say another list, a sample list. Then what will be another list? And so try to understand these kind of things. Even though you change another list, this one is linked to sample list. The sample list also changes like this. So try to test many functionalities of Python on your own and try to understand the mechanism of Python code. All right. This is somewhat confusing at first. However, you will become familiar with these types of functionalities or mechanisms. All right. From now on, I would like to talk about conditions. So what are conditions? We talked about Boolean variables in the last class. And in Python, we indicate true and false using capital F false. If statement is true, we do something. And if you want to implement this part later, you can use pass keyword here. And in another case, if else another statement true, This one corresponds to else if in other languages. Do something else. I'll pass here. And in the rest of cases, I do things like other things. So basically conditions consists of if statement, an elif statement, and else statement, else block. You can skip these two blocks. And when you just want to use this block, okay? So this block is necessary, and you can choose either of two, all right? So for example, let's say x is 2. If x equals to 2, and this double equal symbol means x has the same value as 2. If this is the case, I'll print x equals 2. In other cases, print x does not equal to 2. So when we run this part, because x is 2, it says x equals 2. If I change x to 3, then it will say x does not equal to 2. All right? So conditioning is quite easy. All right? And when you want to compare some numbers or expressions, I told you that you use double equal symbols to check whether these values are the same values. So when we run this part, it says x equals 2, so it becomes true. And x is not 3, so it is false. So it prints out false. And is x smaller than 3? Yes, that is true. So it prints out true. All right. And you can combine some Boolean operations. I'll show you some examples. You want to check if the name is John and age is 23. And it will print out that John, age of 23. And let's say Mike. Let's do this later. And you can combine two operations using and or using this or keyword. So because name is John or Mike, it says hi. What about Kate? It does not print out hi because neither Kate does not satisfy neither of these. All right. There is one question. What does pass mean? It means it pass this part. If I don't put this pass keyword here, then it will incur an error because there is nothing inside this elif block. And when you implement some programs, you sometimes want to implement it later. In those cases, you indicate pass. So I will implement this part later, the Python interpreter, Python program, all right? So that is what pass means. So if you do not put pass here, it will also incur some error because else block does not contain anything. So I'm indicating that I will implement this part later, the Python interpreter. All right. Good question. And another thing you need to understand is in operation. Let's say name is John again. And if name in if this name is inside this list, because John is inside this list, it is true, okay? You can change this one as either is okay, okay? Let's say Paul, because this name is not inside this list, it goes to else block and prints out your name is not in our list, okay? So you need to understand this in operation, or operation, and an operation, all right? And another very confusing thing when you first learn Python is and double equal symbol. So I'll give you an example. Let's say X is a list of 1, 3, and 4, and Y is another list containing 1, 3, and 4. And when you try to print out X is equal to Y, then it prints out, yeah, it's true, because they have the same value. And when you try to check, is X Y? Then it says, no, X is not Y. So let's put Z, that's Y. Let's put Y into Z. And let's print out Z is Y. Then it says it's true. So what it basically means is this one compares the content inside the variable. However, this is operation compares whether they are the same thing. So for example, if I change the first item of X to 10 and print X, they are now different, right? And if I change the first item of Y as minus 10, they are the same values, because Z here indicates the same thing, or thing here is object. I'll make it clear in the next class when we talk about object-oriented programming. So what you can understand here is Z and Y, although they have different names, they're actually the same thing. However, X and Y at this point, although they have the same values, they are different objects, different things, okay? So these double equal symbols compares the values or content inside these variables. However, this is operation compares whether they are the same objects. So if I change the content of Y, then Z also changes, even though I don't do anything to Z, okay? So this is similar to what we've done in this part. All right. So try to understand how naming changes the values or variable, the content of a variable. All right. I'll give you another exercise. What will be the results of running this code block? Think about it and please send me your answers to me. Wongu asks question that Z and Y are in the same memory space. Yeah, that is true. Z and Y are in the same memory space. All right, thank you all for sharing your answers. Let's check this together. The answer is 3. All right. Okay. Let's move on. And I would like to talk about loops. Loops are used for repeating the same task or same job. Let's say primes 2, 3, 5, and 7, and 11. And what you can do is you can iterate through the items inside this list. So let's say for P in primes. And if you say P in primes means, okay, let's run this code and I'll explain the functionality. All right, here P indicates each item inside this list. So at the first iteration, P is 2, and we print out P, and it goes back to this block and updates P. So at first, P was 2, and do this part, and it goes back to this part again. And P now becomes 3, and then it goes to this expression and come back to this part and update T to 5. And it does until it reaches the last item, all right? So that's why 2, 3, 5, 7, 11 is our premium, okay? So this is how you iterate through the items inside a list. And another thing you can do is using range function or method. I introduced this functionality previously. If you say range 5, then it basically creates numbers, 5 numbers from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are printed out. However, sometimes you want to create another range of lists. So for example, 3 to 8. What it does is it creates numbers from 3 to the number right before 8. So I told you that in Python, the last item is not included, all right? And another thing you can do is from 3 to 8, but with step 2. So it prints out 3, 5, 7. So rather than having one step, so 3 to 4 has one step. However, it jumps 2 twice. So 3 to 5, 5 to 7. like this. So you can change these parameters to create numbers you want. Okay. Sometimes lists might not contain just numbers, but some other objects like strings, cat, dog, monkey, like this. Then it prints out cat, dog, monkey. And sometimes you might want to access to the indices of these items. Then what you can do is using enumerator like this. Then this IDX becomes the indices of each item. So this one is the 0th item, first item, and the second item. So this one becomes the indices, okay? So that was for loop. And there is another loop, while loop. So it does the same job when this condition is satisfied. So it prints out count until count is smaller than 5. All right. Okay. So these are quite easy, right? And I would like to introduce two keywords, break and continue. Let's say count is initialized as 0. And while true, you would like to print out count. And you would like to increase count 1 by 1. And if count is larger than 5, I would like to break this while loop, right? So it basically does the same thing. So you print out the value of count, and I increase count 1 by 1 in each iteration. And if count is larger than 5, then I'll break this while loop. So this while loop does not continue performing its job. So that's what break is about, okay? And another thing I would like to show you is continue. So if X is even number, I would like to continue. In this case, it skips even numbers, and the rest of this block is not executed. All right, so that is what continue is about. So when break is met, when we encounter break, then the whole block, the whole while block is broken. So it stops right there. However, when we encounter continue, it stops at this position. However, it moves on to the next iteration. Okay, so at first, X was 0. And when we come to this part, X% 2 equals 0. So it continues to the next iteration rather than executing this part. Okay, then now X is 1. And because X% 2 is not equal to 0, it moves on to the next part. And this part is executed. And in the next iteration, X becomes 2. And because this condition is satisfied, it continues to the next iteration rather than printing out. So X2 is not printed, and we moves on to 3, and so on. Okay. So that was break and continue keywords. And can you combine else and for or while? Yes, we can do. While count is smaller than 5, we're going to print out count. Count plus 1. And we can combine else with while like this. It will incur an error because else block is empty. So when we run this, it runs this part. And when this condition is not satisfied, it goes to else block. All right. Okay, so you can combine else and while. And you can also combine for and while. So when we run this part, it prints 1, 2, 3, 4, and this else part is not executed because this break breaks all these for block and it cannot reach else block. All right. So if you remove break, then after this block is executed, it goes to else block. All right. So when there is break, it eliminates all the functionality of this for block. All right. So you need to understand this functionality like this. All right. And you can combine 2 for loops. So you can combine 2 loops like this, and you can combine these items. All right. Okay. All right, try to understand this code block and please let me know what will be the results of running this code block. And Chan asked the question whether we can use break or continue inside loops. We can use break and continue in other cases. However, we basically use break and continue for loops, 반복문. That is the best place to utilize break and continue. All right, thank you for sharing your answers. I guess everyone is getting the right answer. The answer is 21. Okay, that was about Python primer. Before we move on, I would like to do a survey. I left a survey link in the chat. Please do the survey. I'll give you like 2 minutes. This is to determine, select the recitation time and the type of lecture format. I'll give it 30 more seconds. All right, thank you for sharing your feedback. The thing is, you can access to this class collab at the moment. When you go to this class website, there is class collab link. So if you click this link, then you can access to the collab I am using for class. However, you need to refresh again and again to renew the text or code blocks. All right. So you can use this class Colab link. All right. And I would like to explain how you can do homework. So this is the homework link. You cannot edit this one. All right, the due is 1 p.m. March 9th. How you do this homework is you click this file tab and save a copy in Drive. Then it will create a copy of this Colab. That's what this is about, right? And here you need to run this code first because you need this part for checking your implementation. And there are some questions. So these are some test cases. And you try to understand this part and implement this part, implement this function, right? And if you run this code, it checks whether your implementation is correct or not, okay? If nothing appears here, that means your implementation is correct. If something appears here, that means your implementation is not correct, all right? And last year, some students gave me this feedback. Implementing a function from scratch, from nothing, is quite difficult for novices. So I gave you a hint here. So if you can solve this problem from scratch, then that's cool. However, if you think this problem is too difficult, then you can click this show code and check this hint. You just need to implement this part, all right? Then you copy this code after completing this part, copy this code here and run this doc test, all right? That's how you do this homework. And homework 1 has 9 problems. However, problem 9 and 10, 8 and 9 are optional. You don't have to solve these 2 problems if you think these 2 problems are too demanding, all right, challenging. So any questions regarding homework? Okay, I need to explain this part once more. How you can submit your homework is after copying this code block, Colab, and finish doing this homework. And then here, there is a share button. And make it shareable and copy the link here. You can click this button to copy your sharing link. And then click this Google Sheet. And here are find your student ID here and just copy your Colab link here. That's all, okay? And if you cannot find your student ID, then find the right place and you can click add one more row above or below and write down your student ID and leave your Colab link, all right? So that's how you do your homework. Any questions regarding homework? All right, cool. And is there any problem accessing this class Colab? You just click this button, click this link here, and refresh. The new codes will show up. And still some students say that class is somewhat fast and you need more time for exercises. I'll wait a little longer. In fact, we have more materials for Python Primer, And I guess we need to stop here and continue next time. If you have any, let's call it a day. And if you have any questions, you can stay here. Otherwise, you can leave now. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.